Alrighty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is Friday, September 9th, day before game day in Oklahoma for the second week. We're getting going. OU is going to be playing Kent State tomorrow evening, which I know Brandon and I will both be there for that game. So we're definitely looking forward to it. Granted, it probably will be over before it even started, but it'll still be a fun atmosphere and a fun place to go tailgate and hang out. So today we're going to be talking recruiting update. We haven't been talking recruiting for a little while, but there's definitely some visitors coming this weekend, and we know you guys love recruiting talk. So we're going to talk a lot of, a handful of guys that are going to be visiting, and they're big profile guys. Honestly, there's no small fish coming to visit Oklahoma. They're all big fish, and they're all on the defensive side, at least who we're going to be talking about today. So before we get into it, just want to say we appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. We're over 5,000. Get us to 5,100. We're moving along here pretty soon. Jose and I are going to be doing a live. We don't know when yet, but we'll be sure to let you know. Brandon will not be joining us until probably December, I would imagine, for your couple week hiatus. So it's just going to be the Jose and Brum show for a little while Brandon is taking care of business. And so be sure to be watching that. So you turn on that notification bell so you know when we go live. Stay around for Brandon's in video challenge. Brandon, is this going to be your last video until you leave, or are you joining us for Monday's episode?
To be determined. I don't know. It's going to be a game time decision.
To be determined. So this might be the last Brandon's in video challenge until he's back in December. So be sure and stick around for that and help out and just let us know what you have to say. Follow us on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a review on there. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Everything's linked in the description below, and it's all at Two Plane Sports. All right. So Oklahoma is going to be hosting mainly unofficial visitors. They are going to be hosting one official visitor this weekend. That is Jordan Renaud. He will be taking an official to Oklahoma, OU, Kent State. He's 6'3", 245-pound defensive line out of Tyler, Texas. Gosh, I don't know why I'm struggling. Out of Tyler, Texas. He's a 2023 four-star, number 69 overall. Nice place. And the number 7 defensive lineman in the class. This is a 2-team race. He put out his top 2, I think it was early August. I can't remember exactly, late July, early August. It's between OU and Alabama, and his decision date is September 18th. So we're a little over a week away. OU's getting him on campus for an official visit. And, the last 2 visits in his recruitment will have been to Oklahoma. And Brandon Drum and Parker Thune have been on our show, and basically they've come out and said they feel like whoever gets the last visit, that's going to be the likely landing spot. So obviously Oklahoma's getting the last 2 visits before his official announcement. There is momentum, there is confidence coming out of Alabama. I've been reading that they feel like they're in a great spot and they could be the landing spot. But at the end of the day, I think the fact that he'll be in Norman twice, the family around him wants him in Norman. It's closer. Tyler, Texas is a lot closer to Norman than it is to Tuscaloosa. Feel pretty good about him. Brandon, what do you think?
I mean, I agree. I think on September 19th, he will end up committing and add to what I've said multiple times now as the best defensive line class in the 2023 recruiting cycle. I think once it all finishes up for OU, it's going to be top in the country. Jordan Renaud's a big-time player, guys. 6'3", 245. Just look at his numbers. 66 tackles last year, 2 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. He had 3 pass breakups too, though, which I think is very encouraging, and 1 interception for a big guy. So it's when he's not in the backfield, he's clearly he has the wherewithal and intelligence to understand he's not going to make a play on the quarterback as far as the sack goes, and get his hands up there and knock the ball down the line of scrimmage. I think he's going to be a big piece for OU. I'd be shocked if he doesn't commit on the 19th, and I feel like he'll probably end up silent committing at the game this weekend. He'll probably tell all the coaches, "This is it, I'm coming." But with his announcement date so soon, there's no real rush to move it up. I feel like he'll silent commit this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. And I kept saying the same thing that you saw, Brom, about Alabama feeling good about their position with Renaud, and I get it. You can never count out Nick Saban and that staff when it comes to recruiting, especially elite defensive talent. But he hasn't visited, at least from what I can tell, Alabama for a while now. couple months. And like you said, he's been at Oklahoma. This will be, I believe he was there the last weekend of July, and then this time it'll be his official visit week before his official commitment, verbal commitment. So it really seems like Oklahoma should be where people are expecting him to go. As Drum always says, you got to follow the visits. This seems pretty clear cut. Now, things happen all the time in recruitment where he might have a change of heart last second. We saw that with Anthony Evans. It was literally the day of that he made the official decision to go to Oklahoma. Now it'll just be kind of a waiting game after this weekend. I do feel pretty confident. I have a similar feeling as Brandon does. I think he's going to silent commit. I mean, we had 5 locks come out at the end of July. As I mentioned, he was one of the visitors in that during the party at the Palace. That there's only 2 left. I guess what a lot of people believe is that Renaud is one of them. And then the other big 5-star defensive lineman that we're going to talk about a little later will be the other one later in the year. So, I mean, it's going to be a big game. And Drum said it in their live stream yesterday. There's a little bit of a chance that they might pull out a little bit more of the playbook this week just to impress the guys that are on campus. I don't know if I completely agree, but I do think that they're going to want the defensive line to perform just a smidge better. Kind of hard to do better than only allowing less than 30 yards rushing, but maybe allow less than 20 yards rushing this week, really get those guys to be impressed by the performance and get them maybe both to silent commit this week.
Yeah, and also Oklahoma is going to have to benefit them to recruit all these uncommitted guys is they're going to be having members of the 2023 class on campus. Jackson Arnold will be there, Jacoby Johnson, Caden Green, Eric McCarty. I believe Heath Ozida will be coming in. So there's going to be quite a few current commits in the 23 class that will be showing up and that will be actively recruiting him and all the other uncommitted guys. So I think that's definitely going to help. It's good to see, these guys come back and try to recruit as well. I don't know if I said Eric McCarty, but McCarty will be there as well. So I feel pretty confident. I know Alabama feels good. I know that some people from Alabama still believe that Renaud will be taking the visit to Alabama for the game, regardless of what ends up happening. As far as decision goes on the 18th, I don't necessarily buy that. I mean, we've seen that Venables, with Cozart, like, I don't care how good you are. At the time, OU was kind of in a disarray for commitments as far as wide receivers, but he still held true to it and just let him go. So I don't buy it. I think what he's trying to do to some degree is possibly throw up a little bit of a smoke screen to keep some people guessing and people interested in his recruitment. And with the locks, honestly, I feel as though that Renaud actually is already silently committed. So I don't think he's silently committed because I think he's already been committed. But I don't know that for sure. That's just my gut. So we'll see. Staying along that defensive line, we've talked about him a lot, is David Hicks. Hicks is supposed to be on campus for an unofficial visit back to Oklahoma. I know that, he's going to be having to make the drive because it's unofficial. So he won't be able to, you won't be able to pay for his stuff. So he will be playing in his game, then driving up for the game. It's probably Saturday morning, I'd imagine. He's obviously slated to take his official to OU during Bedlam. 2023 5-star, the #1 defensive lineman in the class. I mean, he's the best there is in this class, and the fact that he's making an unofficial visit for Kent State, granted it is at 6:00, that's got to say something. And could he be coming in, and Jordan Renaud and them are going to Jackson Arnold are going to put the full court press on him to actually commit, but could he be that 5th lock? Could he already be silently committed? I don't know. So the fact that he's getting back on campus is huge. And if you see him come on campus another time before his unofficial visit, I mean, he's driving all the way from Katy. That's big time. I feel really good about David Hicks. If you would have told me 6 months ago this is where OU would have been with Hicks, I would have told you you're crazy. It's almost at this point, I expect Hicks to be a part of this 23 class. Jose, what do you think?
I don't quite expect him to, but it definitely seems like it's going in that direction. And the only reason I say that is because anything can happen in recruitment. In the short time that this podcast has been in existence, we've gone through, I feel like, a whirlwind of situations with multiple recruits. McClellan last year, Dylan Edwards this year, Levius Overton last year. Like that, anything can happen, but it does seem like David Hicks and Oklahoma are becoming a match made in heaven here. Hopefully, this weekend goes well for him. Like you said, it is supposed to be an unofficial visit, so he'll definitely still get to see a lot. But during that official visit and during Bedlam, I think is where we're going to hear a little bit more of full court press being applied there, because I believe that's also when Derek LeBlanc is making his official visit, along with a couple other, and I'm sure a couple other guys from the defensive line group will be coming in to visit alongside with them. So it's definitely going to be a big time for Oklahoma to perform well for those two guys, so that they can feel comfortable with what Todd Bates can do as the Oklahoma defensive line coach. I know, like, we all believe in Todd's ability to coach, but sometimes a change of scenery does affect it. Maybe not a lot, but it will sway the kid one way or another. And I think Todd Bates, the relationship he's formed with DJ, is going to be what ultimately wins out here.
David Hicks is a dog, as our guy Pat McAfee likes to say on his show all the time. The dude can straight up play. You look at his numbers. He had almost 100 tackles last year. 22 of them were for a loss and 13 sacks. When Thune had him on, when we had Thune on, he mentioned, hey, no matter where he goes, is going to be a day one freshman impactful player, and I think that's very true about him. I mean, I feel very, very good about Oklahoma's chances too. Just the people we've talked to, the stuff that we like to think we know. I think we sit in a pretty good spot with Hicks, and that's going to be the biggest get of the class if we are able to finish him. I mean, Jose's right. A lot of stuff can change in this game of recruiting. It's nuts, but I would pick Oklahoma as a favorite right now if I had to. And you mentioned a big week for the team, and I mean that's absolutely true, and that's number one because the team is what really matters the most. But it's a big week for the fans too. I know last week was hot, and we kind of started to file out, and it was brutally hot, and really it was a lopsided game. This game is probably going to be lopsided as well. It won't be quite as hot. For those of us who are going, let's see if we can stay and kind of provide that environment for these guys, because it's going to be, I think it's a big one. It's a big recruiting weekend, obviously, and I think you can feel that energy from the crowd and stuff. So I'm just going to encourage everybody to stay as long as they can at this game if you're going. If not, it is what it is.
I do think people will stay around a little longer. I think the heat killed a lot of people last week from what I've understood and reading about it. I wouldn't expect it to be a packed stadium halfway through the third quarter either. It
100% did. I mean, it like last week it was dangerously hot at times. I was lucky enough to where by about the third quarter, the sun was behind us. We were in the shade. I mean, I was fine, but that first half it was brutal. And the stadium ran out of water, which OU that's inexcusable when it's 1,000 degrees outside. We can't have that happen. We gotta. And another thing, I feel like it used to be when it was super hot like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I feel like as a student, I remember it being when it was blazing hot like that, they would let you bring a water bottle in or whatever. I feel like that should always be the thing in really hot games. I spent $9 for two bottles of water just to try not to sweat to death in week one.
I still think that's a thing. I might be totally wrong, but
maybe I just screwed up then. I don't know, but
I never brought water in a water bottle, so I don't know what to tell you there.
Do what?
Water was never actually in my water bottle that I would bring in. So,
bad boy,
so
right
cool!
there.
Oh my gosh,
he was a cool guy.
He was real cool. It was always sneaking things in, boys.
Too cool for school.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think David Hicks, while Oklahoma's landed some big-time quarterback commits, I think David Hicks would be the biggest commit that Oklahoma's landed since Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy was the number 2 defensive tackle in the class, and he was the number 13 ranked player in his 2006 class. So David Hicks would be the biggest in my opinion. So feel good about Hicks. There's still a long way to go. I don't think he sticks to his January commitment timeline. I think it's earlier. I think OU gets his commitment. I don't see A&M being a huge threat just because of the haul that they got last year. And I think A&M might lose a couple games, and it might spook a few people that are committed to them. So, and a little preview, I think App State's going to give them a really close game this weekend for our betting picks later. So we'll move on. We'll talk about another guy that we've talked about at length, Peyton Bowen. Jose, do you know who Peyton Bowen is?
Our favorite person to talk about.
Yeah. So Peyton Bowen, 6 foot, 185-pound safety from Denton, Texas, 2023 5-star, number 36 overall, number 4 safety in the class. Currently committed to Notre Dame. He's been committed to Notre Dame since January 1st. He is going to be taking a visit with his brother, Eli Bowen, back to Oklahoma for like their 10th time unofficially. And he's coming up, and obviously he's going to hang out with Jackson Arnold and all the guys that are committed. And there seems to be more and more momentum that Bowen might be at the point where he's going to make a decision. And the decision looks like it's not going to be Notre Dame one way or another. And that this could be the weekend that finally pushes Oklahoma over the edge. Brandon might not know until December or until we write him, because it might not be till next weekend. And Brandon will already be, out in middle of nowhere with no phone service running around. But Bowen might be committed to Oklahoma in the next week or so. That's a bold take. By maybe next weekend, by the Nebraska game, he might be committed to Oklahoma. I don't know for sure, but it could get pushed back. But there's momentum. He's coming up unofficially. It seems like as soon as Peyton Bowen would commit, it would definitely put OU in the driver's seat for Eli Bowen, who's a 2024 4-star defensive back. He's also a big-time recruit. Brandon, it looks like you have something to add.
I think we all have a lot of stuff to say on this. First of all, in the Bowens recruitment, both of them, I think it's a little different than the Levius Overton recruiting situation, because both Bowens are good players in their own right. Just outright, they're very good. And a little different in the Levius case, where it felt like Big Bro was kind of just getting a little tag along. But it is what it is. So I think both Bowens would be nice. Obviously, if we can get Hicks and Peyton Bowen, that's 5 stars in the 2023 class, which again is really nice. How many times in our lifetime have we heard Texas is back? Just in the last 6 years since it was coined, when they beat Notre Dame. And how many times has Texas gained momentum with Tom Herman and with Charlie Strong and now Sarkisian? What I'm getting to is I would love for Peyton Bowen to commit and flip and make a decision to come to Oklahoma. I'll believe it when I see it, just like I'll believe Texas is back when I see it. It just feels like this is a never-ending process of him being indecisive. So I'll believe it when I see it, but I mean, I would love to see Peyton Bowen make the call. He was wearing his OU wristband at the game last Friday, which is pretty cool. I don't know if y'all saw that or not.
The same thing we've been saying for like 2 months. This guy is so close to flipping, and then it gets pushed back a week, pushed back a month, pushed back to the end of the season. I'm not going to say I'm over it, because it's still exciting to hear about potentially getting another 5-star, but like, I just don't even care anymore. Like, just make a decision. And I've said it before. I'm not saying that it's not a tough decision to make on his part, or that there's not a lot of pressure, a lot riding on this decision, but like, what can Oklahoma or A&M or Notre Dame show you at this point that's going to completely change your mind one way or the other? If he's not going to be at Notre Dame, decommit, go take officials to the schools that you're more interested in, so that you don't have to worry about taking unofficials, and then make your commitment. Hopefully he does. Hopefully I'm wrong and you're right, Brum, and it's finally true and he's going to commit or flip in the next few days, but I'm not going to believe it, because this is what we're hearing now. But then in next Sunday or next weekend, we're going to hear, well, people around him are still telling him to wait till the end of the season so he can see how the defense comes together, come championship November. Then we got to wait till December or the bowl, or, the bowl games to hear what it is. Or I'm assuming he's going to be in like the Under Armour game or something where he can make his decision then.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, and we'll see what ends up happening here. I think at this point he's got to be near his decision. I just feel like he's been to Oklahoma following the visits. He's been to Oklahoma more than he's ever been to Notre Dame, and he continues to go. And he's been to Oklahoma more than A&M, from my understanding. And he continues to go to Oklahoma. His friends are going to Oklahoma. And his girlfriend's going to Oklahoma. I just don't know how he doesn't go to Oklahoma, just because he hasn't been to Notre Dame in months. He's been to Oklahoma multiple times since. And I just feel like that, and Notre Dame didn't look too good against Ohio State. I don't know, especially if Notre Dame struggles later in the year. I mean, Notre Dame didn't look bad, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like that I think that Bowen, I'm going to say, I think Bowen does commit to Oklahoma, and I think it's within the next 2 weeks.
I mean, Billy Bowman looked good. So I think that Billy Bowman having another good performance this week while Peyton is there might help him make that decision, because they play the same position at this point. So maybe that'll help him make that final decision, because as a safety, he will get coached well at Oklahoma.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move off of Peyton Bowen, hopefully one of our next few videos, and we can write to Brandon that Bowen is committed to Oklahoma, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll move on to the last guy we're going to be talking about today before we go into betting picks is Ryan Yates, another Geyer High School, Denton, Texas guy, 2023 4-star, number 215 overall, and the number 14 safety in the class, currently committed to LSU. I don't know if LSU looked necessarily great with my family, and Brian Kelly with his great Southern accent, getting roasted in the media sessions. And what's crazy is, like, it looks like a disaster now, and there are already people are questioning the hire, and it's been literally one game, which is the expectations at LSU were not great for this year anyway. And now that they lost the way that they did, people are like, wait a minute, did we mess up and hire this Brian Kelly guy, which he's won everywhere he's been. So I don't necessarily understand. But LSU as a program is kind of dysfunctional.
But has he won everywhere he's gone with a Southern accent? Maybe Southern Brian Kelly's not good.
Southern Brian Kelly might not be good. You might be onto something. Southern Brian Kelly might not be good, but anytime that you're the laughing stock of the internet and memes and things like that, it's not good. And it's that he was pretty frustrated with the way that the report came after. But anyway, Ryan Yates is currently committed to LSU. He's supposed to visit unofficially with the Sooners. I don't really know what to think about Ryan Yates. I think if LSU continues to struggle, I think that's going to play a huge factor into his decision. I think Oklahoma's recruiting him hard. And obviously, I think with his teammates being committed to Oklahoma, I guess Jackson Arnold being committed to Oklahoma, and then potentially Peyton Bowen being committed to Oklahoma, there's a lot of momentum there, and especially if LSU becomes very dysfunctional this year. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Ryan would flip with Peyton. I think that that would just be like a coordinated, we're going to do it at the same time. So maybe Peyton does decide to make a silent commitment to Oklahoma this weekend. I don't know if Ryan would do the same. I think that'd be really good pickups for Oklahoma. That safety position is still pretty thin, even after this year. And the development of like RSJ and Jordan Mukes is important, but I think having guys like Peyton and Ryan will help push them, push their development coming, to go to the next level. Yeah, I mean, Brian Kelly's definitely not doing any favors in keeping some of those commitments, but he's also not doing terrible on the recruiting trail. You're still seeing some 2024 guys, even on the defensive side of the ball, be interested in LSU. And so, and maybe whatever he's selling, they're buying, and it is his first season. It's not like they were a good team last year either. So he's got that going for him, that he's having to try to rebuild that thing from the studs.
I was listening to the ref, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember what day it was, but it was Thune and Mike Steele on their show. And I want to say that they were talking about Ryan Yates had just come out recently. I forget which outlet he was with, whether it was the Rivals or 24/7 or whatever, but pretty much said that he's locked in with LSU. I can't find it right now, but that's what they said on the radio. And Thune and Steele are pretty good. I take a lot of stuff what they say pretty serious. And I don't know if that's just him feeling good right now, because Peyton Bowen was saying the same thing for a while. He's locked in at Notre Dame, and obviously he keeps flirting with Oklahoma and A&M. So I don't know if he's just saying the right things and stuff like that. But the ref said that he recently came out and said that he was locked in with LSU. So I mean, if he means that, then we're screwed. But of all the 4 kids that we talked about, and I think Ryan Yates is a good player, this is the one that if you lose out on one, this is the one to lose out on. In my opinion, at least. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just going off that quote from the ref, or that little dialogue on the ref, and I can't find it on the internet right now. But if you guys can, we can talk about it later.
I think I saw that. I think it was a little bit like a little while ago, like a couple weeks, but I think I remember seeing something about him saying, I saw it somewhere. I don't know. I think it was On3 that came out with it, with his quote or something. But yeah, I don't know. Part of me, I think half the time with commits and things like that, you take what they say with a grain of salt, and then what they're actually doing. You follow the visits. They're saying one thing and visiting the other in another place. It's just like, dude, you're saying one thing and doing the opposite. So I don't know.
They're getting savvier. They're getting smarter. Like, these crystal balls are kind of ruining the surprise behind their commitment. So they've got to say one thing and do another, and just kind of keep fans and those insiders on their toes until their decision is made.
Peyton Kirkland thought he was really slick until On3 busted his ass.
He did get everyone. Gary Hamilton was seen as a big dumb dipshit until people started siding with him.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's the recruiting recap. I'm sure there might be a handful of guys that do show up that we didn't talk about. There's a lot.
It looks like our guy Brum is having internet issues. So we'll move on to the next segment. He is wrapping the recruitment up. So we are going on to our betting picks. It's Picks Friday. As we did last week and the last couple of weeks, we're going to give you guys the picks that we like for this weekend in college football. Maybe later on we'll start mixing in some NFL stuff. But college football is what we're going to stick with right now. My record is 8-5, I think is what we figured out. Brandon, what are you?
10-3, counting week 0 and week 1. That's what, yeah.
10-3, and then Brum is also 8-5 alongside with me. So it's going to be all right. Well, he's gone. It's going to be a close match between me and him till the end. We'll post Brum's picks maybe later on since he's having some technical difficulties. But let's go ahead and kick it off. This is all through. If you guys want to join alongside with us, there's a BetUS link in the description down below. Sign up through there. I believe they'll match your deposit the first time as your first time customer. Don't quote me on that. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but it'll definitely help us out if you use that link in the description. So if you want to join alongside us and bet with us, or if you want to fade us, do as you please and bet responsibly. You want to kick it off? We'll just go one at a time. We'll go back and forth here.
That's fine. I'm going to actually start with where game day's at, Alabama, Texas. It's currently sitting at Alabama's a 20-point favorite against the Longhorns. I am going to hammer Alabama -20. I think it's a rout. I really do. I think Alabama. I kind of got hated on for our first video this week where I kind of compared where I said Alabama and Georgia are tier 1 right now, and I mean that's how I feel right now. I think they're really good. I think they boat race Texas. In fact, I got a text from a buddy, Brody, Feldo Entertainment guy, big follower of the show, good guy. But he asked me, what happens this weekend? Does Alabama give up more yards to Texas, or does OU give up more yards to Kent State? I kind of feel like it's going to be close. I think Alabama absolutely shuts them down. I think Alabama covers 20 easily. So I'm going to start with Alabama -20 over Texas.
Sorry, I had a power surge. Where are we at?
You're good. So this is the first bet of everything. We've gone through our records, our overall records. You and I are tied. Brandon is currently in the lead, but it's his last weekend here, so can't be in the lead for much longer. I'm also
So you
going
got
to
to keep my picks though, so I know what I was through week 0 through 2.
We will. I'm also going to take Alabama minus 20. I just think that defense is too good. If Will Anderson is going to be in New York this year, this is the game that's going to help him get there. Even though it is against what is still a very questionable Texas team, they are still a big brand. People want them to be good. So if he can shut them down and be a big part of shutting them down, this will help him. Will Anderson's probably going to have a big game. I would expect Bryce Young too. I just think that the offensive line for Texas is still pretty young, where they're going to be overwhelmed by the talent and the experience that Alabama's bringing in on the defensive line, and then the receivers for Quinn Ewers might have a tough time staying on his feet if Will Anderson does do what he wants against that offensive line.
Yeah. My first pick, I am not going to pick the Texas and Alabama game. My first pick will be Missouri and Kansas State. I am going to take the under on the points of 56.5 total points. I think this is going to be a slower pace. I think they're going to play defense, and I think Kansas State's going to really drag the game out and try to make the game shorter. And I don't think that they score a combined 56.5 points. So I'm taking the under there.
Right.
Okay, so my second one, I'm going to go with Spencer Rattler in South Carolina. They are 8-point favorites right now against Arkansas. Arkansas look good. I think that line is very fair. But as you guys know, watch the show, I'm a huge Spencer Rattler guy. I know he didn't play particularly well week 1 against a lackluster opponent, but I mean, I think he rebounds. I don't know if South Carolina wins the game, but I can see them losing in that 3-6 area and covering. So I'm going to go South Carolina +8 against Arkansas.
Same game, but I'm on the other side. Not that I don't believe in Spencer Rattler, but like you said, he didn't have a great game. Their defense didn't look great either. Georgia State ran pretty well against them, and given that KJ Jefferson, his best quality is running, I'm going to side with Arkansas -8.
My second game will be Texas A&M and App State. Give me App State in the points +19. I am taking App State. They scored like 62 or whatever, 61 points last week against UNC. Granted, UNC did not look great defensively. They're actually atrocious. It kind of reminded me of OU a few years ago. But I just think that Texas A&M didn't look great either. And I don't know if they can keep up in the track meet. And not saying that App State is going to beat them, but 19 points is a lot for an offense that can score like they can.
All righty. So my third one, I'm going to head over to Tennessee and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a team that I saw somebody on College Game Day week 0 actually picked them as a playoff team. I forget who it was, but I'm sure we can go back and YouTube it because it happened. I watched it. And then you watch them against West Virginia, who a lot of people picked to finish near the bottom of the Big 12. They looked, Westphal was in that game the whole time. That dude almost got the ball diving at the 1-yard line. They could have tied it. Who knows what happens? I think West Virginia played them tough. I think Pittsburgh's a little overrated. I'm going to take Tennessee -6. I think Tennessee can win by almost 2 scores against Pittsburgh if Pitt plays like they did week 1.
It was Desmond Howard that picked them to go in the playoffs. He also picked a lot of other questionable teams to go into the playoffs. I think it was just clickbait. But moving on to the next game for me, Stanford USC. I was going back through listening to some guys, some betting podcasts, and they mentioned USC. They ran up the score, but a few of them were pick sixes on tip balls. Stanford just has to take care of the ball a little bit better to prevent that from happening again for USC's defense. And as we all know, Grinch's defense is still very questionable. He's going to have to prove it. And as long as Stanford can keep the ball and not turn the ball over at all, play a clean game, I think they're going to keep or make this a close game. I don't know if they win, but I have it at 8.5. I could see them losing by a touchdown, which still wins me the game.
Sticking with that game, Southern Cal and Stanford, the total points at 67.5. I'm taking the under. I think it's a little bit of a exaggeration, a little inflated after they saw how many points USC scored last week. I don't think they do it again. I think it's really close. Stanford has always given USC problems, and just because Lincoln Riley's there, I don't think it's going to be anything different. And I think they're going to be in a really close game, and you're going to see some issues with the lack of motivation for this team. So that's my pick, under 67.5.
I'm going to go out west as well, but I'm going to pick a different game. I'm going to Baylor and Brigham Young. I don't understand the Baylor. I feel like they're one of the most disrespected teams in the country. I understand that Baylor's on the road. They're in Utah. It's going to be a huge time change, all that. BYU is going to be rocking. I don't even think that BYU is a bad team. I think they're pretty decent. But Baylor is actually a 3-point dog in that game. I don't think they lose to Brigham Young. I just don't see it. I'm picking Baylor at +3. I think Baylor's, like I said, I think one of the most disrespected teams in the country.
I'm actually going to stick to the same game as well, and I'm going to stay with Brandon's side. I'm going to take Baylor +3, pretty much for all the same reasons, and it is going to be a future Big 12 matchup. I think Baylor needs to go in there with the mentality of we need to show them what they're getting themselves into moving forward after this season, because I think Baylor has a very good chance of dominating this conference if they can kind of make everyone cower to them.
Yep. I'm going to take a game that I don't think a lot of people would expect. Iowa State, the Cyhawk. I am going to take Iowa -3.5. I think Iowa wins by a touchdown. I think they get their stuff back together. It might be crazy, it might be ridiculous, but I think Iowa comes out and plays a better game than they did last week, and I think they win by more than 3.5.
I actually picked that same game, but I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to go with the Cyclones. I think Iowa plays better too. Maybe they get 3 safeties this week instead of 2, put up 8 points or something. But that Iowa offense is one of the worst things I've ever watched in my life. And that was against South Dakota, bro. I understand Iowa State's not very good this year, or, they're a down year. But I still think they're a lot better than South Dakota. And Iowa put up 165 yards against South Dakota, I think. 2 safeties won it. I'm going to go the same game as you, but I'm on the other side of it. I'm going to go Iowa State at +3.5.
I'm going to stick to the same game, but I'm not betting on the spread. I'm betting on the point total, going under 39.5. Those teams Iowa looked terrible. I don't know if they can ever get any offensive drive going. It's not like that was a blip either. That was an issue for them last year. They had an opportunity to go get a quarterback, and they didn't in the transfer portal. I just don't believe in that offense to score any points. And Iowa State has Will McDonald, who is a pretty good defensive lineman. I think he's going to make it tough for them to do anything on the offensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with the under there. I don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game.
Yep. All right. Now it's time for my 5th pick, and this is involving OU and Kent State, obviously. I am going under on the total. 72.5 points is a lot of points. I don't think Kent State scores a whole lot. I think OU scores. My score prediction would be 49-13 probably. So I think they will be under 72.5, maybe 56-13. I think OU gives up between 13 and 17 points in this game, and I just don't think that OU will put their foot on the gas to score 70 alone. So that's my pick under on the point total.
Yeah, my last college football pick of the day too. I'm going to go OU, but I'm going to take them at -33.5. I think they come out and win by 35+ against Kent State. I think they improve on week 1 on the 32-point win over UTEP and cover that 33.5.
Same. I have them to cover. And then, do you guys have another bet? I know that I did more this week.
I picked one for the NFL just for shits and gigs. Actually, Dolphins Patriots this week, one for like the 76th time in a row. Tua Tagovailoa is undefeated against Tom Belichick and the Patriots, and then those guys. I think he continues that undefeated, moves to 4-0 against those guys, and I think it's Miami -3.5. I think Miami covers.
My last pick is Texas Tech -3.5. I have a feeling that they're gonna pull this one out and not look like a shitty team.
All right. Well, there it is. So Jose gave 7 picks, Brandon gave 6, and I gave 5.
Yes.
Yep. So we'll see how it is. If you're following all of us, you'd be winning right now. So we'll see how this week goes.
It's a good time.
Bet with us for sure. So on BetUS, there's a link in description. So join if you'd like to. If not, totally get it. And remember to do it responsibly. So anyway, that's all I've got. Brandon, do you have an individual challenge for the people?
Yeah, let's go with over under 205 yards total yards allowed by OU against Kent State. I think we go under. I think we give up about 185 total yards to those guys.
I'm going to go over. I think OU gives up more than 205 yards. Kent State can move the ball a decent amount. Jose, do you have a pick?
I'm just going to go with the over just because, the fourth quarter exists. They're not going to stop it.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. Well, if you made it this far, we appreciate it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, do the in video challenge. This might be Brandon's last in video challenge until he's back in December. So be sure to do that. And if you see Brandon and I at the game, say hi. I don't know. We'll be walking around. And then be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Everything's linked in the description below. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to leave us a review and follow the channel on there. It helps us out a lot. And we will catch you guys on Monday for a recap of OU and Kent State.